Alright, so thanks for continuing on with this little video series. It's the second in the figuring out how to do the CAM manufacturing for your F1 in schools car. This one's moved on from the previous one. In the previous one we went and created a new folder with all the files in it, uploaded the manufacturing file, and we've gone and modified the body of the not the My First car, but your team car to add in, I suppose, a spigot out the front end here, which is going to be really important when we start machining your car. So I've got that file. That one's saved as a separate file. I've called mine MFC-manufacture. You might call it team car-manufacture. It's up to you. And we're going to import that into this file here. So this is the manufacture sample file, which I've deleted the CAM program placeholder from. So I'm going to right-click that car body there, which I've modified, and I'm going to use the Insert into Current Design button. And what will happen is it'll insert it into this design with the origin point meeting the origin point just back here, as you can see there. Now, because of the way we started our cars, and the view we started with, it probably will put it on an angle for you, in which case we just have to, oops, my apologies, that was not correct. We need to rotate it around. So I'm going to click the rotate button. I'm going to select the axis, which is the green axis here, and I'm just going to type in 90 degrees, and that'll rotate it into the correct position to be fully enclosed within that space. Once we've done that, I'll click OK, and if I change my view now to the right, you can see that I've got my car all in there, and you can see that little fixture spigot, I suppose, out the front of the car. So there we go, we've got the car in the design. Now this is probably, one of the easier parts of this. Now that the car's in here, we can actually start looking at the CAM settings for it. So changing what we're doing here now, I'm going to click on the model up the top left here. Actually, before I do that, my apologies, I'm going to need to select the My First car manufacturer or your team car manufacturer file in the tree here, in the browser tree, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to select ground. That fixes that car body in position there, so it can no longer move. Now we'll go to the CAM area. So from model, we're just going to go down to CAM here, CAM workspace, select CAM, and you can see straight away we've got lots of exclamation marks going on down the side here. First thing I'd like you to do, because we're not using a top or a bottom machining, we're only doing a left and a right machine, we're going to select the top machine and we're going to suppress, which is that button there, and we're going to select the bottom setup and click suppress as well, because we're not going to be using those. Next we're going to select left setup, we're going to select edit, and the model is what we need to put in now. So right now it says 2 missing, we're just going to press the X, click nothing, and then click the body of our car. And click OK. So that's the left setup. Now we'll do the same with the right setup. So right click, edit, model, 2 missing, X, nothing, and we'll select the body again. Click OK. So that gives us the information we'll need to set up these little steps here. So for the CAM machining of our car, we have a drilling program and a parallel machining program for the left and the right hand side. So we're going to start with the drilling. We'll select our drill, we're going to right click it and select edit, and we have a bunch of little menus here. We've got the tool, the geometry, the heights, and the cycle. For this one we are only going to select geometry. We're going to remove the whole faces, click nothing, and then we're going to select the 2 whole faces, which is the rear and the front there. So that's the 2 that are going to get done on our car. I start at the back there. Probably best to start at the back axle hole and then select the front one. So that's those 2 there. I'll click OK, and you can see that the exclamation mark is gone now. Do the same for the right setup. So right click, edit, geometry, exit the whole faces, and then select those 2 whole faces again. So back one and front one. Click OK. So that's the drilling now complete. You can see neither of those have exclamation marks on them now. Next we're going to do the same for the parallel machining. So I'm going to select the parallel machining, right click it, select edit. We're going to select the geometry, sorry, we don't need to actually select geometry, I apologise. We'll select OK. All we need to do is basically right click on both of these, click edit, and select OK. And that gives us a machining program that we could run for this car. And I'm going to show you what would happen if we used it now. So we'll just click simulate here, which just from this top menu here where it says setup. So we're just going to right click on that and select simulate. And it's going to take us into a simulation of our car being machined. If we were to press play now, it can show it drilling the holes, then it will show it doing the machining. I'll just speed it up so that you guys can see what happens. So this one's doing a fairly quick machine, 2 holes, and then machining out the other side as well there. Now, one more thing we notice about this machining job is that we have quite thick lines, which means it's making really quite wide cuts at a time, and it would be a very rough machine if we were to do it this way. There's one more thing I'd like you to notice. If I press play again, we get this green bar down the bottom where it switches, and then another green bar. If you happen to see red in this bar, you'll need to speak to me to get me to check over your codes. But for now, that gives you an idea of what happens if we machine it and we just leave it as the stock settings that have come in this file. One thing we are going to change, we'll just press close here. We're going to go into our 2 parallel machining parts here and click edit again. And we'll just go have a look at some of the settings, and in particular the passes setting area. You see it has a fairly low tolerance of its passes, so 0.01. And the main thing we want to look at is the step over for our machining. Now right now it has a 3mm step over, which means every time it changes from doing one layer of cut to the next, it goes up by 3mm, which is half of our machining tool thickness, which is really quite a lot and would leave a very, very rough car in the end. We're going to change it from a step over of 3mm to a step over of, in this case, let's do 0.6 of a millimeter. So it's much, much smaller. And we'll click OK. Now we're going to do that same for the other one. So change the parallel right side, so edit again, passes, and change the 3mm step over to 0.6. And we'll click OK. And now let's see what happens if we do that change. So we'll simulate it again. You can see now there's lots more blue lines on this machining simulation. So if we click start the simulation now, it's going to go through and drill those 2 holes, and then it starts the machining. Now if I speed this up, you can see it's going to take much, much longer to do this particular task. Now while that's doing that there, I'm just going to come up here into the simulation box, and we're going to click on the info. This is going to tell us a little bit about how long this is going to take. And you can see at the moment it's saying 12 minutes and 5 seconds to do half of the job. So if we wait for that to do its thing, it'll probably change in a minute to doing the opposite side. You can see it's getting out towards the canister housing there, cutting that part out. And now it's switching sides in just a moment. And that was the left setup, and you can see the right setup again, 12 minutes and 5 seconds. So at the moment, this is taking around 25 minutes to do the entire machining job, possibly around half an hour. So overall, it will take a little while to machine your entire car, to do all the different parts of it. But if we were to change settings and perhaps add in a top-down or a bottom-up machining, as well as reducing perhaps the distance that our cut takes, so if the step over at the moment is 0.6 of a millimeter, if we would reduce that further, it would again take even longer because it's going to take more passes over the same area. Now, while this is doing this, I'm just going to change the view to the right-hand side view so you can have a look down the front end of the car here. Now, what's important to have a look at is what happens at the front of the car here. You can see that that spigot that we've added in there stays attached, or the car stays attached to that, and that allows our car not to become loose within the overall model or overall block that we are cutting it out of. It will stay nice and rigid within that. If we didn't have that particular add-on there and we just tried to machine the car would drop out as it got down to the final part as it was machining around here, which would be quite a big problem and probably ruin the machining job. So that's most of the settings that you need to know about. Just remember that we've got the settings of, we've got to add the car in, we've got to ground the car. So when I added the car in, we rotated it, then I right-clicked it and ground it, which was the top setting up here. Then we've gone into the cam settings and we've gone ahead and we've suppressed both the parallel top side and parallel bottom side machining. So they have both been suppressed in the menu here. Then we've gone and we've set up the drilling for the two holes on the left, same on the right, then the parallel machining for the left and the right. Alright. Once you have done all that, you have set your car up to generate the tool code that we need to put into the milling machine, but we won't tackle that in this video, we'll tackle that in class. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful in you figuring out how to do your team car. Thank you very much. Bye.